Hello, everybody out there in internet land. It's Ginger here with another episode of Fighting the Void. You can find us at Fighting Void on the Twitters, fightthevoid at gmail.com, and, well, really nowhere else yet, but we'll get there. Don't worry. Returning to the show tonight is a personal favorite, our good friend Red, this time with video for the first time on the show. And as you see, she is keeping the branding strong with the red lighting there. I promise you, we're not filming some sort of weird social media horror thriller thing.
We are.
Well, maybe red is if there's screams in the background, it's either her kids or a victim. You decide. Or both. I don't know. Maybe they've been little crap heads today. I don't know.
They're not here.
Well, okay, then it's not the kid. We know it's a victim. All right, well, Red is here to talk about a lot of the craziness going on in the pro-life / pro-abortion world, because let's face it, there's been a lot of clashes lately, and the rhetoric has been getting much more heated than normal for a variety of reasons. Now, the most immediate reason we're talking about this is all the pro-life legislation that has been coming out of the southern states in the last few days. But lest we forget, that's not where the craziness has started this year. I know it's only freaking May, but it already seems like it's been 3 years since January when we started getting a bunch of like really insane pro-abortion bills out of other states, like New York signing a bill that basically lets women abort right up until the very last second as the baby's coming out. Like literally at that point, they have to deliver the baby. Now, they'll kill the baby as the baby's coming out, basically, and then deliver a whole dead baby. And yeah, it's really that insane. And of course, that got celebrated quite prominently by the governor there, lighting up various buildings in pink and everything to celebrate this great victory for women's rights. And then, of course, perhaps more infamously, the bill in Virginia that, well, Governor Ralph Northam explained it in detail, because it was pretty much this. It seems pretty much just the same, and it really is. It is the same as the New York bill. It allows pretty much abortion right up to the last freaking nanosecond. Oh, and I should point out one thing I wanted to point out about the New York bill. It even changed other laws to make it consistent. So you know how how typically if a pregnant woman is murdered, it's actually considered a double homicide. Not in New York anymore. That's one of the things they changed with that bill. They were like, well, I guess if we're going to be logically consistent, which I suppose they've got a point, they're like, we can't regard that as life, so it's not a double homicide anymore. So anyway, Red and I, we were talking about this just before we went live about the Virginia bill. And Red, you were asking about, if it really was a full-on infanticide thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and well, yes. The governor was asked, "It's like, what does this mean? How does this work on a radio show?" And it's a regular radio show that he does. It's the hosts are used to having him there. It's an audience that he's comfortable with. And he said, as a physician, because Governor Northam's also a doctor, he's like, I can tell you. He said, as a physician, I can tell you exactly how this would work. That's a direct quote. And he goes on to explain how, the baby would be delivered. And he's talking about, either a failed abortion. He's basically talking about a failed abortion, a failed, like, last minute, late term abortion. Basically, and part of that whole process, again, just like I was talking about with New York, the baby is essentially has to be delivered, alive or dead. Even if you do the abortion in the womb, you still have to deliver the dead baby to get it out. So he's like, should the abortion fail and the baby had the temerity to be born alive, he's like, the baby would be resuscitated if necessary, it would be kept comfortable, and then there would be a discussion between the doctor and the parents. Discussion about what there, Governor? I mean, seriously, the discussion about what? And of course, they're literally talking about, well, do we kill the kid or just kind of quietly wait while the baby dies due to lack of nourishment and exposure? Reminds me of certain ancient pagan cultures. Anyway, this is nothing new though. That's what's really scary, because as I was seeing the news clips and everything on this, I was reminded of when a similar bill was, when a born alive bill was passed a long time ago, back during the Bush administration. Obama was just a lowly senator back then, and it was a similar sort of thing. It's like it wasn't a law with any force behind it. It was just a law that says we recognize that if a kid is born, the kid is born alive. There were no penalties for letting it die. And anyway, during that whole process, there was at least one nurse that testified that, oh yeah, I've seen this happen, where kids who survive an abortion are left on a table to die, or thrown in a wastebasket to die. Yeah, happens. Literally happens. Gianna Jessen, as a matter of fact, she barely survived something similar. She was given a chemical abortion, and she had the temerity to survive, be born alive, and the nurse there, there was a nurse there who was like, oh my gosh, she's alive. And she actually got her out of there before the abortionist could come back and finish the job. So yeah, that's where the craziness started this year, with kind of a reminder, I should say, that, oh yeah, infanticide, that's actually been going on in this country for a while. And then and it wasn't just those two places. There were a couple other states, I forget which ones, that passed very similar late-term abortion bills at the beginning.
I don't remember.
What's that?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's maybe Connecticut, Vermont, Oregon, or Washington come to mind, but I'm not positive. I would have to go and look that up again. So, and things kind of seem to calm down there a little bit, and then during the ensuing months, you'd see more instances of some idiot assaulting a pro-lifer who's praying outside of an abortion clinic or something like that, culminating with, and this brings us to red, with our good buddy Representative Brian Sims in Philadelphia.
I'm gonna pour more coffee because he makes me mad.
That's cold brew coffee. That's why you hear.
Yeah, it's iced coffee in a can.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Well, he's a representative of my state, and he started harassing pro-lifers.
Yes.
So, Mandy, I don't know. Are you familiar with Mandy?
A little bit.
Crash, I think.
I remember when you two had your dust up with Talib.
He's a psycho.
Yes, he is. Amen.
Well, she tagged me in it, and I had no clue that this was going on. But Mandy is in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in Philly. So I'm like, holy shit, like, this guy got problems. And I'm like, one thing led to another, and the next thing I know, I'm in Philly. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this guy was harassing old ladies, teenage girls, and everything, trying to dox the teenage girls. Yeah. And he's all acting all big and bad, and bring it on, Bible bullies. Yeah, way to go.
His account is set to private.
Right. So, is it still? A couple weeks later?
You just keep talking, and I'll let you know in a second.
All right. Yeah, because he's
so tough.
He was very tough. He was a former football player and everything in college and everything. Tough, scrapping dude. Funny thing is, I didn't watch any of his videos.
He's still locked.
That is awesome. I love it. Because there he is.
He's still locked. I freaking love it. I hate his face. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be loving, but I hate his face.
Well, I don't blame you because
He
the
represents
guys,
my state. Like people that come here or think of coming here, he's somebody that represents Pennsylvania. So I
yes,
do not like that at all.
no, especially when you get reminded of other times that he's kind of like popped up on the radar screen with his lovely welcome to Vice President Pence to Philly.
Oh yeah, this?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
Because he's a 13-year-old boy.
I know. It's like, come on, man. It's like, well, just because our current president is a bit of a loudmouth and
I don't like him.
and juvenile, doesn't mean everybody stop trying to out Trump, man. It's not gonna work well.
The only reason I even use Trump is because it makes people insane, and I think it's funny. So
it is hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. It appeals to my own inner 13-year-old, to be perfectly honest. It's like, oh, it just makes all the right people lose their friggin' minds. But so as a result of all of this, as a lot of you will probably know, Matt Walsh was like, hey, we should do a rally outside this Planned Parenthood.
I have a picture with him.
You do.
Matt Walsh, awesome Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Lila.
Yeah.
All three of them. And Caitlin, I have a picture of her, but I didn't want a picture with her. I don't like her.
You're not alone. I haven't heard anyone that actually likes Caitlin Bennett.
I think I offended her. Did I tell you I talked to her?
You did. You were like, my friend wants me to touch your hair, but I don't want to touch your hair.
Well, I'm like, a friend really wants me to touch her hair, and she's like, oh, you can go ahead and touch it. I'm like, no, thanks, I'm good. And like the look on her face was like, how dare you?
It's like, you're a strange person.
I don't regret it. It's hilarious.
Just you got to take advantage of those random troll opportunities. But yeah, so Matt Walsh throws out the idea of the rally. Mm-hmm. It actually starts to be a bit of a thing. He's like, I don't know how to plan this thing. Reaches out to Lila Rose and her organization Live Action. They get it all together in a matter of days. And I think he threw out the idea on Monday, and then on Friday, there's this rally that you were at, and some of the bigger personalities from the Daily Wire and some Blaze TV guys and everything were there, and a whole host of others, including Abby Johnson, one of the biggest names in the pro-life movement for the last few years.
I wanted my picture taken with her, but she left before I could. I managed to get really 5 feet from her, and then she left, and it made me sad. Not that it wasn't great to meet the other ones, but she was the main one I wanted a picture with.
Oh yeah, for very good reasons, because I mean,
she's my hero.
She's freaking phenomenal, and
amazing.
Yeah, and so there was this rally with 1,000 people there. 1,000 people plus, and that's according to CBS, which shockingly covered it. I think they were probably hoping for fireworks. They were probably hoping that something would go crazy. A pro-lifer would throw a Molotov cocktail or something at it, and they could put that on air. But that didn't happen because that's not what we do as a rule.
If anyone would have, it would have been me, but I was well behaved.
You know what? If you were behaved, you're right. Everyone there was no one there was a threat, and I love how. Did you see that Sims was actually locked in his office and had police outside of the building?
There were police everywhere, I guess, to make sure no one got near Sims because
and some people did go to try to interview him, but interview him, not
harass him. No pro-lifer is going to go there and beat his ass. That's not a thing we do.
Right. Even though it kind of has it coming.
I am going to
that's
a sip of my coffee.
There you go. But yeah, that's not a thing that we do. And yeah, he's essentially gone into digital hiding now. Apparently, he couldn't handle it when the Bible bullies actually did bring it.
Yeah, he did. Didn't he say that? bring it, Bible bullies. I'm not scared of you.
He said exactly
My
those
account's
words.
not locked. So
Exactly. He got some pushback and he scampered back into his little corner like a freaking cockroach.
Well, I think it's
cockroaches hate light.
I think it is fair to say there are some pro-choice people that you can be friends with and you can have conversations with, but what he did was completely unacceptable. It's just not okay what he did.
Oh, no, it's not okay what he did at all. And you're absolutely right. There are plenty of people who are, who are pro-choice that I can sit and have a normal conversation with them, even have a conversation with them about abortion. And it's, even if it gets heated, we'll still be friends at the end of it.
I curse at all my friends. If you can't handle it, we can't be friends. So
exactly. And well, it's interesting. Steve Dace, he's one of the guys at Blaze TV, and he actually draws a distinction between pro-choice and pro-abortion. The pro-choicers, he's like, those are kind of the people who are like, they're not really comfortable with abortion, but they want to be nice and compassionate and understanding. So they're like kind of okay with it, but they're not all the way. They're not like all in necessarily. They're the ones who are like, I don't think it should happen. I don't think there should be no restrictions. There should be some, but it shouldn't be illegal either. It's those people. What he means by pro-abortion are the Brian Simses of the world. The Brian Simses, the Alyssa Milanos, the ones who are like, shout your abortion, say it loud, say it proud. Basically the people that watch The View.
Well, I have a theory about that. I don't really think anyone is pro-choice. I think there's pro-life people that are scared. There's pro-life people like us that are not scared. And then there are pro-abortion people. I don't believe there is a pro-choice. The ones that are pro-life but scared are the ones, like you said, that don't really want to control a woman's body and they're kind of confused. They're the ones I happen to try to talk to because there's a chance of changing their mind. Pro-abortion people, your
argument would be that the people that I'm kind of defining as pro-choice but not pro-abortion are actually would be pro-life if they just spent a good solid 10 minutes thinking about it.
I think they're confused, and I think they're trying not to hurt anybody.
I think you're not wrong about that, because I do think most people that would fit the pro-choice description that I threw out there, I think, they haven't really thought it through very much. And even if they have, don't quite have the backbone to accept the vitriol that will come their way if they're at all open about it.
Like when I say a rape victim should still carry the baby for 9 months because it's still life, like I'm a horrible person and I deserve to die.
And that is, that is definitely the hard case that they always throw out there. And I've noticed, you and a lot of other people using the argument that, well, okay. And I know a lot of people are getting this from Crowder because he's been big on pushing this argument that, okay, fine. Crowder.
Oh, okay.
He's been big on pushing the whole, well, okay, fine. Well, I'll give you rape and incest. I'll give you exceptions for those. Can we ban the rest of them? And the answer is always no.
Well, I don't so much say ban. What I say is, because I don't like government, so I really don't like them being involved. So what I say is, okay, so rape and incest are wrong, and there's a legitimate argument there. But what of abortions outside of that? Are they wrong? I try to phrase it as like a morally wrong, and I have yet to meet one person that told me, oh no, they're wrong. They all tell me, oh no, all abortion's okay. So it's like, oh, okay, so you're using.
Which is exactly my point. Yeah.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
Yes, it is. And I would definitely disagree. This is one of those rare instances where I would think, no, we need the government to enforce this, because one of the few functions of government that all but the most anarchist leaning of the libertarian crowd would agree with is to protect innocent life. Now,
well, unalienable rights. and one
Yes.
is right to life.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And I was like, well, yeah. So obviously, this is a thing you should not be allowed to do in anything vaguely resembling a civilized society. And I'd say we vaguely resemble a civilized society still. Vaguely. But that kind of brings us to I would say, the counter bills that have been coming out of the South now. Because now everything grabbing the headlines are all pro-life bills, which is just blowing my mind. And it didn't even really start with Georgia, which was the first one that really grabbed the headlines.
That doesn't surprise me. I've been to Georgia. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Right. But even Georgia wasn't the first one to start doing this. Last year, there was a heartbeat bill signed in Iowa. And the governor there, she won re-election largely because she realized she needed to run on that and not kind of hide it. So she started running on it. She went up in the polls and wound up winning her re-election. Ohio, the legislature there passed a heartbeat bill, and I don't know what the strength of it was. If it was just saying heartbeat equals life, and that was the extent of it. I don't know the details of those bills at all. But I just know that they passed a heartbeat bill. And actually, Governor Kasich, whose father was a milkman, if you didn't know.
I didn't.
You didn't know that?
I did not know that.
My goodness.
I know.
There's someone he still needs to tell. And he actually vetoed it. But then once he was out of the governor's seat and someone else was, that guy signed it. So, well, there you go. But things, again, started really grabbing the headlines with Georgia's bill. Now, you've read the Georgia bill, right?
Yeah, it's only 10 pages. It's not that difficult.
No, it is not. It's not even really a full 10 pages.
And no woman's going to die, because if your life is threatened by the pregnancy, guess what?
Yeah. Okay, so what does the bill, what does the bill actually say?
I forget exactly the wording and terminology, but if a woman's life is threatened, they do take that into consideration and allow her to proceed to protect her life, which is a pro-life stance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, your life takes precedence. It doesn't mean that it's more important.
Right.
But it means you have a right to protect your life.
Yeah, and obviously. There's no pro-lifer that I have ever been aware of that says the woman has to put off life-saving treatment,
right?
If that treatment would threaten the child, and that's the whole thing. It's always go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I did actually state when they said, well, if they make abortion illegal and a woman goes in a back alley and tries to have an abortion, not because it is jeopardizing her life, but just because she doesn't want the baby. And they're like, oh, so you're okay with that woman dying? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe she wants to kill her kid that bad, right? Like, maybe she deserves to bleed out. I don't know. So I did say that, and I did recant on that because that's horrific, and I can't believe I said
that was a little much, but
it is. But I get really passionate. I'm like, if you really want to kill your kid that bad, I have 2 kids, and I look at them every day, and I'm like,
right. Well, and you've got your own hard story with with number 2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I got pregnant with my abuser's kid, and he asked me to have an abortion. Guess what? She turns 9 this year. So,
which is freaking awesome.
It is. And I don't, those stories, I sympathize, but.
Right. It's like you've been there.
Yeah.
And honestly, your situation is about, the situation that you've described is about as bad as any that I've heard. I mean, in all honesty. And yeah, you're like, not killing my kid. Suck it.
Well, it's not her fault. I made some bad choices. I missed signs. And I don't regret it.
Right. Right. And like you said, she turns 9 this year,
I
which
know,
is amazing. And I've had the pleasure of seeing her and talking to her a little bit.
She wants your bunnies.
And she does want the bunnies. That's true. And she is a beautiful little girl, and it is a great thing that she is here.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah. So anyway, it does, as you say, it does allow exceptions, for if the mother's life is in danger, you can proceed with treatment that will save her life. If that threatens the child, well, that's unfortunate. And actually there's, and what they're getting at there, whether they fully realize what they're getting at or not, I don't know. I don't know any of the legislators in California. I mean, Georgia. There's a weird slip. And it's something that in moral theology is called the principle of double effect.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the idea that, okay, there's this, you basically, it comes into play when you've got sort of conflicting moral principles.
Right.
In this case, you've got life of the mother, life of baby, right? And basically, you can go ahead and do something that is going to, is likely to have a bad effect, but you're doing it to get this other good effect. So let's say the mother has like uterine cancer or something like that, and the only way to kill it is either, let's go with a full on extreme case. She's going to die in like 2 months if they don't literally get her uterus out of her, but she's pregnant. Okay, the thing is, it's like, you know what? We can go ahead and do the hysterectomy, even though, yes, we know it's going to kill the kid. We don't want to kill the kid. We're actually going to still do what we can to save the kid, but we know it's likely to result in the kid's death. But we don't want. That's not the result. That's not the result we want. The result we want is to save the mother. So that's principle of double effect, kind of in a nutshell. And that's what they're getting at with the whole, life of the mother exception in these bills. It's like you've got conflicting goods. Only one can win, and it rare as it is, it does happen.
Well, I did actually have a question about that bill, because I know people were saying, oh, well, there's no exceptions for incest or like rape, but from what I've read, there is an exception for psychological trauma type of deal where they have major psychological issues where they could kill themselves or whatnot. What is
I think that might be in Alabama. I think that might be in Alabama's.
Is it?
But there is actually, for rape and incest, the cutoff is 20 weeks.
Okay.
As opposed
in Alabama.
No, in Georgia.
Or in Georgia. Okay.
In Georgia, cutoff is 20 weeks for those situations. Because the main thrust of the Georgia bill is if you can detect a heartbeat, you can't kill the kid. And which is, I think they're picking a dividing line that most people are going to be able to agree on, essentially. Because I'm still like, well, it's life at fertilization, not just because the heart's beating. Because if you want to play that game, well, we have this thing called brain death too. It doesn't have a brain. You need lungs to breathe. So as soon as they stop breathing, I'm dead pretty much. They don't have lungs yet. So, it's just, to me, it's still an arbitrary line, but it's still, this is way better than anything I've had in my lifetime. This is still a great step in the right direction. And anyway, so the main thrust of it is if you can detect a heartbeat, you can't kill the kid. But they're like, well, if it's rape, you've got until 20 weeks to kill the kid. So, there are still that. What's that?
I don't like it. I still don't like it.
No, I still don't like that either. That's why I'm a much bigger fan of the Alabama bill, which we'll get to in just a hot minute here. But now they also, there's been a lot of other things that people have been saying about the Georgia bill that are just flat out not true.
Women go to jail.
Right. Why do women go to jail, Red? According to people that don't know anything about this bill.
I don't know, because that bill explicitly states that a woman that attempts to have an abortion or has an abortion will not be civilly or criminally prosecuted. So I have no idea what they're reading, but it could be green eggs and ham, but they're not reading that bill.
No, they are clearly not, because you're talking about how there was this thing going around online, and I got into this a little bit with some people in the libertarian crowd. No names, don't want to throw anybody under the bus, about this notion that women could be prosecuted for having a miscarriage, which is just like, I was like, that sounds
It's absurd.
weird. Like I can't. And there was, what's crazy is there was even an excerpt that kind of made it seem like that might be what they were getting at.
I have an idea of who you're talking about, and I'm very close with her, so I won't mention any.
Nope. That's why I'm not mentioning no names. But I saw that, I'm like, it really one that conversation is what motivated me to read the bill myself.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it started setting off my BS detectors, because I was like, wait a minute. If this was true, why was none of this being said before the bill was signed? Because if it was true, they would have latched onto this and been trumpeting it from the freaking rooftops to create public pressure to stop it from being signed in the first place. And I'm like, something is fishy here. So yeah, I went and read it. Well, actually, first Crystal read it. And she's like, the only time it mentions miscarriage is when it's defining what they mean by spontaneous abortion. And basically, by spontaneous abortion, we mean miscarriage. Only time it's mentioned in the bill at all. And it's literally in the context of a definition. That's it. Nothing remotely having to do with, well, if we think that you actually, it's not just a miscarriage, we think you drink a fifth of Jack to kill your kid, we're going to be looking into that. No, there's nothing like that. Not even remotely.
Spontaneous abortion, that needs to change, because it makes women, I have a lot of friends that are women that had miscarriages, and it makes them feel like they did something wrong, because their medical charts state they had a spontaneous abortion.
I think that
I don't like that.
arrival of that terminology is very strange to me, and I think it is literally, I honestly think at least some people out there do have the ulterior motive of trying to conflate miscarriage with abortion.
I think
and I mean, some people are literally arguing that they're the same thing, which obviously they're not. It's like a miscarriage is the process just going wrong. No one has any control over that. You dummies.
You're trying to make me mad.
I mean, they're literally just saying dumb things. I swear. I know. It's maddening. So anyway, like I said, the bill says nothing. The bill actually explicitly says we ain't prosecuting the mother.
Right.
We're not. None of the penalties mentioned in here have anything to do with the mother, and every one of these new pro-life bills says that. The Georgia one, the Alabama one, the Missouri one, the Louisiana one, they all say that. They all say we are not going after the mother. Not even the Alabama one, which is by far the strictest of the bunch. None of them say anything about that. None of them say anything about going after your birth control either. None of them say a thing about it.
No one cares about your body. We care about the life you're trying to end.
Exactly. It's like none of these bills say a dang thing about any of that. So, anyway, what was really disappointing about some of those conversations I was having was that I was having them with people that frankly should know better than to trust stuff that's coming out of the media. That I think otherwise would be highly skeptical of most claims coming out of the media.
But they weren't with this. That's why I'm surprised. A lot of my acquaintances that are normally kind of weary on the mainstream media, when it came to this abortion bill, they were just so ready to jump on the bandwagon with it. And it just shocked me. I'm like, did you read it?
Yeah, it was a little disappointing. And I've seen other friends of mine that I'm close with too kind of say, it's like, I'm pro-life, but I have to oppose this and all these draconian measures. Like, did you read it?
There's no
Did
but.
you read it?
I'm sorry. You're
it doesn't
not
say what
pro-life,
people.
But you're pro-life, period.
Yeah. It's like, it's not, it doesn't say what you think, what people are saying it says. Like I said, a lot of these things were outright lies. As far as, excerpts that seem to make it say a certain thing. Either they're made up, like somebody out there started circulating. It's like, oh my gosh, look at this horrible excerpt from this horrible bill, or it was an early version before, you know. And I could see that. I could see an early versions, you know, floating around different ideas and everything, and then, you know, somebody in the state legislature goes, no, that's dumb. Oh my gosh, yeah, you know what? I didn't really think of it that way when I wrote it, but you're right, that's kind of dumb. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, so yeah, Georgia, they're not coming after you for your miscarriages. They're not coming after your birth control. They're not prosecuting women. Holy crap, people.
They don't care if you put a dick in your ass, your ear, your eye, or your mouth. They care about a life. That's it.
Yes.
They're not trying to control your body.
Yes, you can put whatever, wherever, anywhere else. You even engage in activities behind the dumpster at the Arby's. But
close house behind the Arby's dumpster. I know exactly what you're talking about. I said that. We don't care about that.
You did, and you know those are the best things I've ever read on the internet.
Beautiful.
It was poetry, pure poetry, right?
I'm Shakespeare.
Something. So, the Alabama bill, there weren't, at least not from what I saw, quite as many. There weren't quite as many lies being spread about it. The one thing I really saw about,
I remember that one.
Yeah, that was the one that was just flat out. We are, if there's a heartbeat, that's it. Boom. No abortion if you detect a heartbeat. Period. In the story, mostly period. Except obviously for, you know, to save the life of the mother. That's clearly stated in there. There's also, this is where you get into the psychological thing that you mentioned, Red. It does say that if basically you get two shrinks to sign off, like, hey, this lady's freaking suicidal. If she's going to be, if she has to carry this baby to term, she's gonna kill herself. Right. Get two shrinks to sign off on that, then they can have the abortion. Mm-hmm. Which I understand why you would do that, but I don't think I quite agree with it, because you're.
Well, I don't like it, but I certainly don't want the mother to die. People are really confused about what pro-life people want. We don't want the mother to die either.
No.
We just don't want you to kill a baby for free.
Exactly. I'm like, well, this is one of those areas where, you know what? I'll shell out some cash, give her all the counseling, all the help, whatever she needs to get past this, because I can only imagine how horrible that is. It's got to be one of the toughest things a person could possibly go through.
Well, I don't want to equate like rape to domestic violence, but they kind of go hand in hand.
I mean, there's more parallels there than anything that I've experienced.
Right. So going through that, it is really tough, but the only thing that kept me moving forward was it's still a life. Like, it's not my right to say whether she lived or died. Like, it's just not my choice. It's just not. And adoption should be a lot easier than it is.
Yes, it should. It should be significantly easier. It should be significantly faster. That said, when it comes to babies, there's people lining up out the door to adopt babies.
I'll adopt a baby.
It's still long. It's still a long, stupid, expensive process. But there are more people. There are more people that want to adopt the babies than there are the babies to adopt. All the kids in foster care in the system, they're all kids that were orphaned later on in life, and there aren't as many people that want to adopt a 10-year-old.
I would.
Right? But, you know, that's when you get to that. It's not that they've been most of them have not been in the system since they were born. and they're still waiting for their forever home, 15 years later or whatever. That's pretty much not a thing that happens. I'm sure you can find a couple examples out there, but it would be the vast minority of situations. So anyway, the one thing that people have been freaking out with the Alabama bill is the notion that that an abortionist could get 99-year prison sentence for doing an abortion, and rapists only get however much they get. It's significantly less. I remember seeing that. Now it doesn't say anything about that directly in the bill.
Mm-hmm.
What it does say is that abortion will now be a Class A felony, which I assume the max sentence for a Class A felony is 99 years. I assume that's where they're getting that from. And apparently,
well, if they're counting it as murder as much as we hate it,
right?
If it's murder, a murderer is still going to get a longer prison sentence than a rapist. This is the way our court system works. Like, we shouldn't be surprised that is what they're getting.
Yeah.
If they're considering the fetus and by the way, we have to stop calling them babies because we're losing that debate out there. If the fetus is considered a person, they're killing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's murder.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, if the argument is going to be, is that, well, the rapist should have at least as bad of a sentence, okay. I'm okay with that.
I like Ben Shapiro's argument. He should be castrated or killed. I really like those arguments.
I am not opposed to castrating him and throwing and throwing that off to the pigs while he watches.
Give him to me.
I'm okay with that.
Give him to me. I will do it.
There you go. See, we even have someone willing to take on this burden for society, right there. So, and you know what? I'm good with it. I'm totally good with it. I'm not. The thought of it might make me cringe a little, but I'm totally okay with it. Chop away, throw that thing in a garbage disposal, whatever. However it needs to be disposed of, I'm good. So, if that's the argument, sign me up. I'll have that. You know what? I'll fight shoulder to shoulder with anyone who wants to have that fight. No problem. And now, actually, you mentioned something. Did you say stop calling it a baby?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why do you say that? I'm curious.
I say because they are using a scientific argument where we're using it will be a baby. Scientifically, it is not a baby yet. I think we need to focus on more. It is a human life.
Yeah.
So there are different developmental stages.
Yes.
There's different developmental stages. Like, a child is not a teen. A teen is not an adult. But they're all human life. They're just in different stages of development. I think we should focus
and that's
more on
fair.
That. Because when you call them a baby, you sound like an idiot. And
I think, honestly, you only sound like an idiot because people are like, well, at this stage, it's scientifically considered a zygote. It's like, oh, shut up.
Okay, but you got to think of it like this.
That's not the damn point.
No, listen, if you're trying to change their mind, if you're trying to get through to them, you need to speak their lingo. Their lingo is zygote, fetus. They're dehumanizing because they've been programmed to do that. But they're still not understanding it's still a human life. So when you use child, teen, adult, senior, fetus, embryo, they're all human lives. They're more willing to listen to you. You make a little bit more sense. You're not saying, hey, it's a baby.
I suppose that might be true. I mean, I'm obviously not arguing with the factual element. I'm not disagreeing with the factual elements of what you're saying.
I argue a lot.
But I'm not. I don't know if I think that that's actually going to get through to anybody. I think they might be just using it as a way to casually dismiss you. But I think it, honestly, I think it's a BS argument, to be perfectly honest. When they go down that route, it's like we all know what the point is. If you're in that discussion, we know what the freaking point is.
Yes,
and I do kind of think that going that route and going ahead with a full-on clinical language, I think you have to, one, you're kind of, to me, it seems like you're playing defense a little bit. Two, uh, two, then to avoid the dehumanizing aspects of the clinical language, you got to be like you got to be like, yes, at that stage it's a zygote, which is on its way to become, which is still a human life, and it's still and it's on its way to being a cute little baby that you cuddle in your arms. You just have to use more words.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, you might not change the person's mind you're speaking to, right? But the people that are listening to those kind of arguments are still watching you go back and forth
that's true.
Person. Those are the people you're going to want to actually get through to, not the person you're talking to, because those people usually are pieces of shit. I'm sorry, you just are. But the people that are being programmed, calling them zygotes and embryos and fetuses just to dehumanize. But if we use those kind of languages and explain to them they're still human lives, the people that are being currently brainwashed are like, wait a minute.
Right.
Like, that's my theory.
The whole thing is just very, very
frustrating.
It's exactly. It's very frustrating because I do think they start throwing that to sound smarter than they really are. It's like, good job, you Googled the stages of development.
Well, I got told when I said, well, fetus is the Latin term for offspring. They're like, oh, Latin. Well, that's a dead language. You don't use that anymore. I'm like, really? Because fetus is Latin and we still call them a fetus. So, like.
Literally, you just use the word.
See that
the Latin word, you jackhole.
That's what I'm saying. You have to outsmart them and use their lingo and kind of use it against them, because you can't just go calling a 6-week-old a baby. Even though I think that it is, they don't look at it that way.
No, they don't look at it that way. And, as far as I'm concerned, it's a baby. It's a teeny tiny little baby. And, it's fair to say, like, okay, you know what? That we're going to call a baby this stage over here. And, before that, it's this stage and that stage and, back to embryo. Honestly, that's fine. I just find it bloody cumbersome. to be honest. But
I think I do it more on Twitter than you do.
This is true. You do.
Debate abortion.
Yeah.
And I found what works and what absolutely shuts them down. And as soon as you call them a baby, they say you're uneducated and this and that. But if you stick to zygote, embryo, fetus, and you go on and based off human life, then they really have no argument. And then they say something stupid like masturbation is genocide. So.
Oh, gosh. I can't believe
it.
I know, and it shows up on signs. It's not like they didn't even just show up in the last couple of weeks. I've seen it before. It's like,
did you see my argument to that one guy? And
I remember reading at least some of it. Yeah.
I know it sounds horrific to say it on a live stream, but I said if a guy shoots his load on the floor and, like, I don't know, he's a bad house cleaner, right? And, like, you don't clean stuff up, it's never going to turn into a baby.
Right.
Like, they're completely different. So that's the same thing as a fetus.
Right. I know. Yeah. You were talking about that on. You brought up that on your last Periscope about it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, I can't help but wonder. It's like, do you believe this when you say it?
I think they
Are you really that stupid that you know that little?
They're brainwashed.
It's like, you believe this, or are you that stupid, or do you think I'm that stupid? Which one is it? I don't know. Or are you just saying that just to get a rise out of me?
Possible.
It is possible.
On Twitter, at least.
Yeah, on Twitter, or at the protest with the signs and everything. Maybe. I don't know. It's crazy. But now there are since the Alabama one, there were like bang, bang, bang right away. There was a Missouri one, and there was one in Louisiana, and those are both pretty good. The Louisiana one in particular is weaker than is weaker than the Georgia one because it makes its limit at 15 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, don't get me wrong, still step in the right direction.
Right.
Good job. What's interesting about that one is that it's the most recent of the bunch. So it's in the midst of all the craziness going on. It's in the midst of all the media backlash. And the governor of Louisiana is a Democrat. That's what's noteworthy. Yeah, you're giving that look. Well, you remember, this is still the South. Yeah. Just like the governor of Alabama.
Like Southern Democrats are going to be kind of different than Northern Democrats.
I would hope so. Then again, the Clintons came out of the South.
We don't talk about them ever.
We don't talk about the Clintons.
You'll die.
Yeah. So it's fascinating to me that it's fascinating to me that a Democrat signed that in the midst of all the media insanity. So that, in a way, the Louisiana bill gives me more hope than the rest. And that was just like that was basically just a one-page thing that was like, you know what? We're changing our existing laws. We're throwing this in there. After 15 weeks, no go. Again, with obvious exception for the life of the mother. You know, so yeah, in a way, because it was signed by a Democrat, it gives me more hope than the rest of them because of the fact that just because of that, he's going to lose a lot of points within his own party. So awesome. Good job, Louisiana governor, dude. And then, of course, the governor of Alabama was a woman, which, you know.
Jim Carrey. Wasn't Jim Carrey the one that did that thing about her?
Oh, yes. So it was like,
what the fuck is wrong with him? That helps the pro-life movement.
His name is Jim Carrey. He's always been off of his freaking rocker.
All right, well, okay.
You are familiar with this person.
I mean, I am. I used to be a big fan, and he's losing his mind.
Oh yes. He's never really been a sane individual, to be perfectly honest.
Well, whatever. He's worse now.
Yes. Let's see. I'm actually looking at the Missouri bill a little bit. Let's see here. It is that one. It doesn't have a time cutoff or anything. It's like if the heartbeat's detected, okay. No abortion except for the obvious life of the mother. And I think if you read through the whole thing, I think there's an exception for rape in there as well. I would need to double check it again. But again, that's actually overall, it's a pretty dang good bill. Its penalties for violating the law are much weaker. It's a fairly small fine, like $1,000 or something like that, and you lose your license, or what the fines are. So still better than anything I've seen before this spring, really. So things are definitely looking up. There's a momentum behind the pro-life movement that I've never seen before. And I've been involved to one degree or another for many years now. So seeing this sudden motivation, the sudden politicians getting off their rump and doing some of what they've been promising us for decades is encouraging.
Well, speaking of that, they're saying if you don't have a vagina, you don't have an opinion. What about Roe versus Wade? Are we overturning that, or?
Right. Yeah. Since that was all dudes on the Supreme Court back then. What I mean is, no uterus, no opinion unless you agree with me.
Yeah, have you noticed that?
Yeah.
All these dudes talking about abortion being a human or a woman's right, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, go dude. He has a dick. What are you talking about? He doesn't have a uterus.
I know, right?
He has an opinion.
And it's the same way anytime they start talking about, well, we need to find common ground and compromise and be partisan. And I just love those guys, those moderates over there. Yeah, all of those things mean you agree with me.
I could beat up all those men.
Honestly, I believe you could.
I could. Pretty strong.
At the very least, you could make them just like cower in fear just by like coming at them with your 5 feet of fury.
I'm 5'2".
5 foot 2 inches of pure unbridled fury.
Exactly.
So, where do you see this? Where do you see this going in the next couple of years? We've got at least roughly a year and a half or so of the Trumpster in office yet. Possibly 5.5 years yet, but we'll see.
I don't like him, but he's an awesome troll. I'm a troll at heart. So
he is the troll in chief. Yes. So I don't know, where do you see this going in the next next couple of years?
I mean, I'm kind of happy with where it's at. I don't want to restrict it entirely. I think it's kind of like a process. You don't want to just take it all away from women until they understand your life is not ruined when you have a kid. It's legitimately not. You're never ready for a kid. Even when you plan for it, you have how many kids? You know this.
I have 6 kids, and I will completely agree that, especially when it comes to the first one, you're not ready.
You're never ready. You're never going to be ready.
It's like, honestly, it's like that with anything big in life.
Right.
Every major step I've taken in my life, I wasn't ready for, and no one could have prepared me for it. The first time was when I joined the Navy. I talked to a lot of people who were in the military before I went in. I went in and it wasn't what I expected. I wasn't ready for it. And it took me a while to realize no one could really tell me what it was like. Even if they had been on the inside, they couldn't tell me what it was like on the outside. What are you laughing about there?
I'm laughing because I remembered a situation with my mom where she kind of prepared me for motherhood, but at the same time, then I had my second kid, and you're very familiar with her. She's interesting. I had her, and I'm like, oh my God, Mom, she's broken. There's something legitimately wrong with this one. Why won't she sleep? But like, none of the books prepare you for that. It doesn't matter how much you prepare. Like, I had to throw the books out with my youngest because she broke 2 bones in 2 years. Like, this is just my kid. This is what we're doing.
Yep.
And you just kind of got to go with the flow. This is life. That's what happens.
Yeah, it is. It's like that. It's I got married. No one could have prepared me for it. You've got to experience it from the inside. There's anything major. Kids is high on that list of things you're never ready for.
Because they're all different.
They're all different. Exactly. And they test you. And I don't just mean like they drive you crazy. That's not what I mean. I mean, you find out a lot about who you really are when you have kids. You find out who and even if it's like, oh, I'm kind of a selfish prick. Which, you know what? I discovered it's like, yeah, I'm more of a selfish prick than I thought. But it also makes you, it's like, okay, maybe I'm not happy with who I am. But okay, but I know what I want to be. I want to be not a selfish prick. So you go and you try to work on that.
My youngest is identical to me. So like, I'm like,
oh no,
there's another one? I call my mom and I'm like, I'm sorry. And she's like, what'd you do this time? I'm like, for whatever I did in my childhood, because like, she's driving me insane. Like, I'm so sorry. From the morning,
so great.
From like the time she wakes up to the time she goes to bed, she does not stop. In the morning, we just woke up. Like, honey, calm down. Midday, it's okay. Be quiet, honey. It's just mellow out. And at the end of the night, shut up! I swear to God, shut up. That is my second.
I can relate a little bit because my oldest is like, she's a carbon copy of me. Like if somebody basically took me and reincarnated me as a teenage girl.
Oh God.
That's her.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My wife says too. She's like she is so much like you. It's almost never said in an approving way either. It's like, yeah, sorry. I raised her well. What can I say? But anyway, it's as far as where I see this going in the next couple of years. I don't know. I don't expect, in all honesty, a lot of new legislation getting passed. I expect, as far as that goes, before all that else gets passed, we're going to see how these existing ones go through the courts. And the Alabama law was written expressly to challenge Roe v. Wade.
Right.
It was written with the idea of, okay, we know this, we want this to go to the Supreme Court. So that's why they put in a bunch of stuff. They explicitly were mentioning the Declaration of Independence in there. They explicitly pointing out these are human lives we're talking about. Way more people have died.
I'll be right back. Is that okay?
You got to get more coffee?
No, I said I'll be right back. Is that okay? No, my dog.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
All right. So while Red's doing that, I do want to bring up some other thing about the Georgia bill. As a lot of you guys might know, the Georgia bill that really pissed off Hollywood, because Georgia's got a lot of really good tax incentives to encourage Hollywood to film there. And it used to be Michigan. But Governor Snyder and everybody repealed those tax incentives, and Georgia was like, "Come on down here," and so they did. And Hollywood's like, "Well, we're gonna." A lot of people in Hollywood have been threatening to boycott Georgia as a result of this, and some have. So far, nobody big, but I'm starting to see, like, every few days, it's somebody else that's actually some other Hollywood person that actually is following through on the boycott. And definitely my first initial reaction is, well, screw you, Hollywood. I really don't care what you do. Piss off. You suck. Go somewhere else where you pay more money to do your thing then.
You talking about them going to Georgia?
Yes.
Go there?
Yeah.
No one fucking cares. No one fucking cares.
Right. But something that I think, well, one, I don't think, I honestly, I hope the pro-abortion crowd actually stops and thinks about this a little bit. Remember, there are worker bees out there who do work on these films, who depend on it for an income. Remember, you're hurting those people. Those may even be people who agree with you, by the way. FYI. They may be, in fact, they work in the film industry. They probably agree with you. You're hurting your own people there, to be perfectly honest, for the most part. I'm sure there are exceptions to that, but most of them are people that are on your side that you're hurting. So think about that, you dummies. Second, now, people on our side, people on the pro-life side, we do need to realize this is a full-on culture war that we're a part of. There are people caught in the crossfire. I'm not saying that means we should back down. I'm not saying that at all. But we do need to give some consideration to the fact that, yeah, you know what? There are some people who might actually suffer as a result of it, who don't necessarily have a whole lot to do with it one way or the other. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that means we should back down. Definitely not saying that. What we should do, one, is keep that in mind when we're discussing it. Two, maybe the time is actually right that we should start forming our own. We should form our own production companies, our own studios. Some of these things exist to one degree or another already, with varying degrees of success. But I just want to throw this out there: anybody who has or currently works in film, who has been hiding your more conservative, more traditional, more orthodox viewpoints in order to keep your job. Think about it. Think about trying to network with other people like you, because I know they're out there. There are some big names like fairly big names like Andrew Clavin, who has you know who has written a lot of movies, written a lot of books, made a lot of money doing it.
I love him.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the Clavin, and he's incidentally he's a great guy in person too. I got to meet him a few weeks ago.
Lucky.
Yes, and I've got our mutual friend Blindfold Bethany to thank for that.
I'm gonna have to talk to her after this.
Oh yeah. Anyway, there are guys like him. There are others like that you've heard of, like John Voight, Adam Baldwin, who are out there who would almost certainly love to get something truly independent and also telling good stories, not just trite little Aesop's fables or anything like that, not messaging films, but just good stories that don't have to bow to the leftism of Hollywood. Start trying to network with these people and build a viable alternative. Because one, we're going to have to do that anyway to one degree or another, and in order to take back the culture from these people. So start working on it. Anyway, bit of an aside. Where one, that's actually someplace where I would like to see the pro-life movement go, is actually start building cultural alternatives to tell the stories that will motivate people to kind of take back the culture a bit. And two, legislation aside, ultimately, and this is something where pretty much every pro-lifer agrees, ultimately the battle isn't going to be won at the ballot box. Not really. Before it's truly won at the ballot box or won in the courts or whatever, it will be won on the streets. It'll be won in the hearts and minds of the people of this country. We got to keep working on that. We got to keep working on convincing people of the value of human life, that it is a human life, that it matters, that everyone deserves a chance to live. And that means you're not just having the arguments on Twitter. It means getting out there as far as you're able in the trenches and helping out the scared mom, helping out the abuse victim, helping out, helping out whoever it is out there who needs it in order to have this kid. Help them figure out an adoption service. Offer to adopt if you have the ability to do so. Work at the crisis pregnancy centers. They're all over this country. So many more than you realize. There are, and if you're a person out there that happens to be watching this, that is in one of these situations, that is in one of these horrible situations, and you don't see a way out, I promise you there is one. There are people out there that will help you. You can
contact me.
You can DM Red at, what's your handle, Red?
Dynamite Redder. Bienamite. Redder. Yeah.
Yep. Redder with whatever.
They can spell Redder.
With 2 D's, just to be on the safe side.
Okay.
And reach out to Red. Reach out to me. You get my Gingerman editor. You can find me on Twitter there, or at Fighting Void if you want to contact the show. Crystal monitors that as well, and we will do what we can to help connect you with people locally that can directly help you. If you need somebody to talk to, you can do that. There is help out there. I promise you. We'll help you. If you come to us, we'll help you find it. There you go. Red, you got anything else to wrap this up?
Surprisingly, no. I'm all talked out. Weird.
Who the hell are you? Is it the lighting?
I don't know. It's like a seance.
Does a camera does the camera steal your voice? I'm what?
I don't know. It's weird. I'm just chill tonight.
That is shocking. It must be the coffee.
Yeah. Definitely the coffee. It's coffee.
So, anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for now. There won't be a show unless something drastic changes. There won't be a show on the weekend, kind of taking the holiday weekend off. But I'll be back. We'll be back the week after, and we're working on a couple of guests that should be really cool.
Tell
So
me.
I can't tell you on air. It's not done yet.
After air.
After air. Well, you already know. We were talking about it before we went on.
I don't listen.
You might need to yell.
Oh.
I've got a couple of others that are long shots, but you never know. Anyway, coming up soon, we've got some really cool guests. You guys are going to love it. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in about a week and a half. And until then, keep fighting the good fight.
Bye, guys.